Coming up on this episode of 101 Sports,
We discuss a crazy NHL trade deadline,
a series of college softball upsets,
college basketball contenders and pretenders,
and we recap the Winter Olympics from Pyeongchang. All that and so much more.
and it all starts right now. Hello and welcome to the newest edition of One-on-One Sports. I'm Mason Stauff.
And I'm Thomas Hale. We have a lot to catch up on, but before that, Mason and I will be hitting the hardwood with this quick hitter. Over the past calendar year, a series of scandals has absolutely wrecked college basketball. Since last fall, when Louisville was exposed for an escort ring, new information has been continually uncovered involving impermissible benefits passing from universities, recruiters, and branding companies to student athletes and their families. This past week, some more big names such as Arizona coach Sean Miller were revealed in connections to bribes and more benefits. With the investigations ongoing and seemingly more information turning up each week, it's clear the scale of the problem is unprecedented, and whole-scale change could and probably should be coming to college basketball going forward. So Mason, how's all this scandal going to affect the game?
It's going to tear it apart, that's for sure. The
A
only
big
thing,
fundamental change is
yeah,
coming to college
all
basketball.
we know is that the game of basketball is going to remain 40 minutes, put the ball in the hoop. But everything else, other than the on-court product, is going to be completely torn apart.
Let's just talk about kind of what went down, first of all.
And again, that's another one of those things where we still don't really know.
Right.
All we know is that there was basically a ledger that was found and released that all these schools and all these players either had impermissible benefits passed to them and their families, or some kind of bribery went down.
They found that Adidas was working with some agents to steer their clients, to go to Adidas-run schools.
Right, and then you have other cases where not even Adidas being involved, but just the school was paying the players or their families to try and get them to come there. The Sean Miller case was a wiretap, about $100,000, trying to make sure that top recruit DeAndre Ayton went to Arizona, which he did.
Yeah.
Ayton's still playing, Sean Miller not currently coaching, though he is.
Which I find a little bit interesting.
It's very interesting,
Yeah.
and we've seen no players currently removed from competition
And
yet.
honestly, that's probably for the better. These guys don't really have much control over their situation in these cases. It's all in the agents, and this might bring up a new point in that, do we keep recruiting with agents?
I think it's so difficult. Obviously, many of these kids are 18. They can hire an agent if they wish. But the politics behind this, no longer, first of all, the whole idea of a student athlete is out the window. These guys are professionals in waiting.
We need to stop holding on to that idea of amateurism, because it's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
When you look at scholarships that are given to other students that aren't athletes, they can have their papers reported on by different newspapers.
Right.
All these things can go into more professional formats, except for athletes.
And every single scandal that comes up is crazy. You had Louisville. I mean, UNC scandal just got resolved earlier in the year. Every single week, we're getting new stuff about how the world of college basketball is completely messed up.
Yeah, and one thing that I think this investigation opens up is you now see that the market is there for these athletes. It's the same as a professional thing. You're going to be bidding on athletes, and does it change how the NCAA does recruiting? Once again, is it going to be an open market? Top bidder gets the best player.
And the worst thing that's going to happen to all of this is that some of the names and the faces that we've associated with college basketball, some of the people we've had more respect for than anyone else in the history of the game, could completely get torn apart. Mike Krzyzewski could be gone. Tom Izzo, in his own scandal at Michigan State, could be gone. I mean, we already know Rick Pitino's gone at Louisville. John Calipari. The biggest names in this sport could be completely destroyed.
And that's if we find another
forever.
similar connection like Sean Miller was, where he was sending out the requests to get players money so that they would come to his program.
And every single thing we've heard over the last week, whether it be from former athletes, current athletes, coaches, experts, or analysts, is everyone does this. This is not news to anyone. The only thing that this is news for is apparently the people that are reporting on it.
And
everyone
that's the funny
knows.
thing is that the NCAA calls himself a nonprofit organization.
Right.
But as you can see, there's so much money just being circulated around amongst administrators, coaches, but not the players.
Everyone is feigning ignorance here. Everyone's like, what? I didn't know. Everyone knew it.
Exactly.
Everyone knew it, and everyone's been doing it for a long time. And what's going to change is that you can't feign ignorance anymore. This is too big, and this is going to be too grand on a.
And it can't be ignored at this point.
Oh my God!
Because a lot of these situations arise.
People are going to try though, and that's the problem. People are still going to try and ignore it.
People are going to say it's too hard to completely change this system that we've got going, but it needs to change because I think it comes to a point where athletes need compensation.
Athletes need some form of compensation.
More than a scholarship.
Well, here's my take on it personally, the whole scholarship payment argument. If you're going to pay them, then they can't get a full ride and a stipend on top of that, and room and board and books. If you're going to pay them, then they also need to pay for some form of college tuition. Yeah. They need to get themselves through that 1 year of college before they're getting to the next level where so many people are. But at the same time, still, the whole 99% of us will be going pro in something other than sports still holds true.
Exactly. You see a lot of young stars, say a young singer. He makes his millions at 15 years old. He can do whatever he wants. But a pro athlete that's on his way to the NBA can't get an off-campus job.
At the first point, regulations were there to be put in place to help try and protect the athletes. That's not the case anymore. Mm-hmm. These are not there to protect the athletes. They're there to protect the NCAA and the schools. And no longer are the schools and the NCAA being protected. And we know for a fact that these athletes are not being protected here.
And we talked earlier, how dumb do you have to be to just keep complete records of you cheating?
That is the big thing for me. How the heck do you have a giant ledger of all the cheaters right there? If you're going to cheat, at least be discreet about it.
Keep it under the table, but they found it pretty easily, dug into some computers, and there you go.
It was so easy. And that's the thing. It can't be this easy anymore. Right. It cannot be.
And hopefully it won't be becoming more difficult because they're trying to hide it more. Right. Hopefully the problem will be gone.
Stop feigning ignorance. Make something happen.
Exactly. Keep it professional.
Well, that's all the time we have for this quick hitter, but after the break, I'll be transitioning from the hardwood to the rink with some NHL trade deadline recap. Stay tuned. The NHL trade deadline has come and gone, and several teams made some big moves as they either gear up for the Stanley Cup playoffs or prepare for the future. I'm joined by our experts Andrew Vandellis and Brad Clear as they discuss the biggest moves made at the deadline. So Brad, we'll start with you. Two title contenders making some major splashes. First, you have Ryan McDonagh going to the Lightning, and then you have Derek Brassard going to the Pens. Which move was bigger? Who benefited more?
No question here, it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. They went into the All-Star break and into the trade deadline as the best team in the NHL. They came out with a top 10 defenseman. They gave up one player off of their roster. Sure, there's some good prospects thrown in there, but this is a team that is built to win the Cup this year. They're the best team in the NHL. They're built to win the Cup next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. So this move only adds to that. It's definitely Tampa
Absolutely.
Bay.
I have to go Tampa as well. As you mentioned, they went all in, and this seemed like the icing on the cake, without a doubt, making a run for the Cup. And it gives them help defensively and gives them a veteran leader as well.
Like, you look at their defensive core, right? People say, oh, they had Victor Hedman. They didn't need Ryan McDonagh. But if you can get Ryan McDonagh for picks that are going to be 29 or 30 overall and a few prospects that you're probably going to have a hard time getting ice time with the stack roster they have already, you do it. This only helps. He's a top 10 defenseman in the NHL. This adds to the Stanley Cup team they already had in place.
I was going to say Pittsburgh, although they made some moves at the deadline, they didn't actually make trades. They signed people to 5-year deals, and their goalie just got hurt. But in the trade themselves, I think Tampa Bay made a bigger move.
But there were a lot of teams that did give up a lot. Which team gave up the most, and do you think it was worth it for them?
I have to go with the Bruins getting Rick Nash, and that's because he's an unrestricted free agent who is probably most likely past his prime, definitely not what he was offensively.
He's in his mid-30s, yeah.
Why would you go and risk your future talent?
Risking your future.
Even if it is a 7th-round pick in 2019,
okay,
it's still a potential part-time acquisition there.
You're a playoff team who's trying to win the Cup. You need another scoring punch in your top six.
But with the Lightning and the Penguins as well?
So what, you're just going to flop because you don't think you can win it all?
No, but I don't think Rick Nash is the key there.
He's better than what they had in that role already, and they gave up a pick that's going to be 26th overall.
It's how much they gave
up,
though.
If we're talking about giving up a lot, it's easily Thomas Tatar with the Vegas Golden Knights. They were trying to get Erik Karlsson going up to the deadline and just missed out. Thomas Tatar has the same amount of points as Rick Nash. Rick Nash was acquired for a first and a 7th and some few bad contracts. Thomas Tatar was a first, second, and third round pick. I get Vegas wanting to add to their team in some way, but this kind of felt like, well, it actually was a desperation move and giving up basically whatever it costs.
I mean, but
to get
Vegas is
Thompson.
still in their first year of play. Boston, you're
Yeah,
looking
they're-
at an
yeah.
established team still trying
What
to
does that have
elevate
to,
their
what does that have to do
chances.
with anything? Vegas
I
is the
just
best
think
team in
they
the
gave
Western
up.
Conference.
They gave up more.
No, they
gave up
didn't.
more.
A first, second, and a
Boston
third is
did.
more than a first and a seventh. What are you talking about?
In terms of talent and future,
They have the same amount of points for-
future
they have the same
impact
amount of-
on the franchise. I think Rick
They have the
Nash
same amount
is
of
a
points
short-term
this year.
decision that'll have long-term
Tom
effects.
Tatar has 1 year more in his contract than Rick Nash.
So-
Who's to say they won't re-sign Rick Nash?
So I'm pretty sure I know your answer for this,
Yeah.
Brad, but there were a lot of teams that bought, obviously a lot of teams that sold as well, but which buyer's team was the most is the most set up for the future now?
Well, even if we included sellers, my answer would still remain the same, and that's the Tampa Bay Lightning. Again, a team that has all of their core players signed long-term. Steven Stamkos and Kucherov, two of the highest-scoring players in the league this year, signed long-term. Great defenseman, great goalie, add to the top 10 defensemen. This is a team that's going to be contending for the Cup at minimum for the next 3 years. They're the best team in the NHL. For the future, they're the best team in the league looking
I
forward
was going to say,
short-term
I was
and
going to say,
long-term.
prop to Steve Yzerman, Stevie Wonder as they call him, for
Yzerman.
putting together such a great team. And as you mentioned, it's not even close in the East. I don't think. I think the
It's
Tampa
not
Bay
at all.
Lightning have an amazing lineup, and adding McDonough just makes it even better.
I would love to see Tampa and Vegas in their first year
That
in
would
the
be
Stanley Cup
a
Finals.
very impressive
That would be
start.
too sweet. That would be pretty awesome.
It would be
Absolutely.
entertaining, that's for darn sure. But that's all the time we have from the rink, but don't go anywhere because Thomas will be hitting the diamond for some college softball right after this.
And 36 homers. Swings at the first pitch and fouls it deep back into the stands.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
This is your computer. Let's go in.
Let's go. Okay. She's gonna love me all over again. Now,
Jamaica, here you come.
here we go.
Good job.
I don't know what's happening. Start a new chat. What did I do? Okay. Wow. That is so weird.
Hey! Hi!
Oh my gosh. Hi. God, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm so nervous. Gia, you're so big. Come closer to the camera. Wait, now you're in my face. That was so good.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
It's no fairy tale that the right fit means everything, especially when it comes to car seats. Always choose one that's the right fit for your child's age and size.
That does make a difference.
To find out more, visit safercar.gov/therightseat.
Danse, balance la cadence, ondule bien tes hanches, au bal du dimanche.
You didn't give up on sex. Don't give up on birth control either. There are more methods than you think. Find yours at bedsider.org.
College softball started 2 weeks ago, and teams battling left and right. In just the second week of the season, upsets have started rolling in. I'm here with Emmanuel Tobe and Evan Piercy to discuss how and why teams have either dropped the ball or risen to the occasion. So guys, Boston upset two-time national championship, the Oklahoma Sooners, and then the Sooners went on to lose to Arizona. What does this mean for the Sooners, guys?
Look, to quote Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. Relax. This team is 9-2. They only lost one senior in Macy Hatfield. They're bringing back a strong core led by Paige Lowry, who's 16-3 with a 1.53 ERA last year. Paige Parker, 26-5 with a 1.43 ERA. This team is poised and ready to go. Every team wants to come out and beat them. It's Oklahoma. It's the number one team in the country, defending national championships for back-to-back years. Everyone's getting their best shot. They'll be fine.
I agree that you have to relax, but there's one thing that you have to think about, and that's kind of the mental mindset of going in. Right now, you're going for your three-peat. They have 8 of their returning 9 starters, so they all have that mindset of, we want to go in, we want to win again. And you really have to think about, sometimes for teams, like losing, it kind of gets into their head. So, there's a question of, is these 2 losses, is it good for them? Is it bad for them?
It's too early to tell. I mean, the season is, you have a long
really
season.
long season,
They'll
exactly.
be fine.
I'm not saying
have
that.
to
I'm
worry
not
about
saying
it.
that they're going to struggle or anything like that. But I'm just saying it's something that to keep your mind out for the
This
mindset
is
of these
probably
players as
good
well.
for 'em. Look, coming in, you have 8 of the 9 returning starters, like you said. To get beat early shows that you are beatable, that you still need to come and work hard. It's not going to be handed to you. The national championship isn't going to be handed to you. You have other teams like Florida, Washington, UCLA that are up there, and they're going to be coming for you.
They're going to be coming for you, so
Let's
you have
move on
to
from
think
that
about
number
it.
one team, former number one team, excuse me, to the number 2 team also facing an upset. Florida lost to Louisiana Lafayette, those Raging Cajuns at number 18.
Raging Cajuns.
What was the magic trick for Louisiana Lafayette guys?
So
Manny?
when you're playing a offensive team like Florida that gave 53 home runs last year, pitching is really important. And what they did that third game was they outpitched them. They also had very little mistakes, very little errors. This was the first game of the series that they had no errors, but their pitching was spot on. I mean, look at what Ellison Summer did, as well as she was clutch.
Summer Ellison?
Summer Ellison,
yeah. I mean, she pitched 11. She pitched all 11 innings of the game, turned around 4 days later and threw no hitter. Like this, she is a beast when it comes to pitching. Yeah. And in the game against Florida, she scattered 8 hits, but she scattered 3 hits after the third inning. No more than 3 hits. Not a single Florida Gator did not reach second base until the 10th inning.
And you also have to
11th
look
inning,
at the offense of how Florida was playing before this game. To me, they just looked kind of off in the third game. I mean, they scored 9 runs game 2. They just looked off, you know?
Look,
right.
The Raging Cajuns seized the opportunity. It was there. Florida came in, like Manny said, they'd scored a lot, 9 runs in their previous game. They scored 13 in the 2 games prior combined. Yeah. The team's tired. They
that
capitalized.
Third and final game
Raging
definitely got in
Cajuns
the
came
way.
in. They got the big home run to walk it off.
Let's move on from that number 2 team to now the current number 1 team, Washington, sitting pretty up there. Anyone got to take them down, Evan?
I got to go their conference rival, UCLA. I mean, this team is also undefeated. It's currently sitting at 15-0, and they're led by Kylie Perez, who has a .432 batting average right now, and then redshirt sophomore Rachel Garcia, who's 6-0 with a .54 ERA in 15 games this season.
Impressive.
They have the pitching, they have offense, and honestly, they have a big 3-game series coming up in the end of April. And if both teams currently continue that trend, it's going to be a big matchup, and it's ultimately going to decide who is number 1 in the country. And I see Washington.
To me, I look at the team that we just talked about, Florida. And if you look at how competitive and how good they were last year, and then just kind of compare it to, they have a lot of their starters back. You know, they have a strong, high-powered offense. To me, you just look at Florida. I just don't see how Washington's going to. As well as look at strength of schedule, though.
I see Florida.
Strength of schedule.
I've got to jump in. We got to end it.
Oh no!
That's plenty of time.
I was getting into it.
Yeah, this is good stuff. Love it. 3 strikes. We're out. But we got some college basketball coming up next. Thanks for joining us, guys.
March Madness is less than a month away, and an already crazy college basketball season is about to get completely insane. We've seen top-ranked teams rise and fall with unprecedented regularity, which means that it's anyone's guess as to who will make a deep run in the tournament. I'm here with our college basketball experts, Dom Vernazza and Ennis Warlick, to decide which teams are title contenders and which need to step up their game as we hit tournament time. So, Dom, we're going to start with you. Which team is actually the best in the country?
I mean, it's got to be Duke. I understand there might be a team or two that might be playing a little bit better now, but here's the thing. You got something to say?
Yes, I have something to say.
Already?
Duke lost to Boston College, NC State, UNC, Virginia Tech.
The same Virginia Tech team that beat Virginia.
Wait for it. And that's why Virginia is still the best team in the nation. It's got to be Virginia.
Okay, but you're going to pull those losses here.
Virginia.
Look, Virginia is a veteran team. Their juniors and seniors have been playing together forever. Of course, they're going to come out of the gate running.
Duke doesn't know how to play any form of defense. They can't play zone. They can't play man. Trayvon Duval
They've got the best player.
Terrible.
They've got the second best player. They probably have the third best player of both those teams.
I'm telling you, he turns the ball over. Teams know he can't shoot. They're just not playing cohesive. They're a talented team.
Look, if this was the NBA, you might be right. Maybe the lack of shooters would be a bigger problem. But this is the NCAA, where it's been shown time and time again that the dominant 2 big men can carry a team,
and you know what else
shooters
is
just not as important.
And you know what else has shown the NCAA?
That Virginia's not good in the postseason?
That the most talented team in the nation does not always win. The best team right now is UVA. Duke is the most talented team in the NCAA.
See, no, you're mistaken. Virginia is playing the best right now. Duke has the highest ceiling. They've got the best coach. And
answer this question: did John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and Eric Bledsoe win an NCAA tournament?
Did Jahlil Okafor, Tyus Jones, and Grayson Allen?
Are they good pros?
Well, we're not
Are
talking
they
about
good
the pros.
pros?
We're talking about hype
Are they
20
good
gun
pros?
prospects.
Are they good pros, Dom? Are they
Jahlil
good pros?
Okafor was highly rated. I mean, you can't hold what he did in.
We're getting a
in
little
the
off
NBA.
topic.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
come on here.
But Ennis, I want to go to you here. Which highly ranked team do you not think is worth the hype?
Oh, it's got to be Gonzaga. I've been wrong about Gonzaga on this show before, but they're not showing me anything this year. Their best win is against Texas, who has been extremely streaky. They've had close games against teams like San Diego State, BYU, Pepperdine, Pacific. They're not real this year. I'm sorry, I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Gonzaga, but I think Xavier is even more overrated. They're ranked
They
number
are
3
overrated. I
in
will
the nation.
concede to that.
Their schedule has not been good. Really, the best team they played Villanova twice. Both times have been shown that they're just not in the same league. I think they're a good team, don't get me wrong, but as a potential number 1 seed, I mean, give me a break.
And I agree with you that they're rated too high. The only thing I will say is that Gonzaga has a little streakier of a track record than Xavier does.
I mean, Gonzaga did go to the national title game.
And they,
last
yes,
season,
they did.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk some Cinderellas here. Which team outside the current top 10, which really inside the top 25 means you're a contender at this point for me, but which team outside the top 10 do you think can make a deep run in the tournament?
I gotta say Kentucky because I've seen this story before. John Calipari brings in these talented freshmen. Sometimes it's regular success, but sometimes they struggle in the regular season. But guess what? They're more talented. They're more athletic. He's a good coach. He knows what he's doing in the postseason. They put it together. They go on these deep runs.
I'm gonna have to stop you.
Okay,
again.
then who are you saying?
I'm saying Wichita State.
Oh, the 11th team in the nation? Really going out on a limb there on the outside of the top 10.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm still saying
the
Wichita
11th.
State. that answers the question. Wichita State has Landry Shamet. They have Shaq Morris, who is a beast in the
I thought we were supposed to pick someone a little further away here.
No,
I don't know. It's going to be crazy. That's all I know is that it's March Madness, and this one's really going to be mad. That's all we have from this block, but Thomas will be back in the lounge when we come back to recap the biggest stories from the Olympics in Pyeongchang.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
You sure you don't want some? It's chamomile. Listen, you are extremely terrifying. Just the scariest undead subhuman thing on TV, and I really mean that. But I am worried that you could give my kids nightmares if they see you, so I'm gonna have to block you. So that's it. Oh, and tell the zombies they're blocked too.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
Upsets happen all the time in sports, but miracles are a different story. In this Olympics, both the United States curling team and the U.S. women's hockey team overcame substantial odds and brought gold back to the United States. I'm here with Matt Zaffel, Jimmy Longo, and Sophie Zavada to discuss which gold medal will have more of an impact on the future of curling and women's hockey. So guys, big wins for the United States. What's the impact that these medals will have for the sports?
Well, I think the United States women's hockey team, they've been in the final game 3 out of 4 Olympics, and they finally got the gold. First time in 20 years. I think this is such a big accomplishment for them because they've come so close, but yet they were so far. So this gold was really, really impactful, especially in this Olympics.
Yeah, but like you said, they have come so close 4 times. And because they've come so close, everybody's been talking about them positively, and the sport has definitely impacted from that, from them being talked about since 1998 when they won. So they've been having this whole talk about how great they are for the past 20 years. Curling has never won a gold. They won this year, and they were second to last and last in the last 2 Olympics. And I think because of that, that's really what's going to be driving curling in America for the next few years.
I think you have to factor in who they played, too. The team that beat the U.S. in the last Olympics was Canada. It was a brutal loss, heartbreaking, honestly, and they come back and they revenge this year, get event in a shootout nonetheless. So it was dramatic. It was, gut-wrenching. It was blood pumping. Everyone was excited, and then they won on the shoot-off. It was great. Everyone loved that.
And being a part of a team where your Olympic past, you've made it to the finals for the past 3 years, and you've come so close, but you couldn't get to
when you get that close.
Yeah, but when you've been last and you finally get to
but
gold.
Nobody wants a silver medal.
That's a Cinderella
if you've
story.
Had a silver medal, if your program has had a silver medal for the past 3 years, or 3 Olympic
if your program's
events,
never had any gold medal, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but
let's look at men's hockey too. They struggled this year, didn't even medal. So the women's team coming out and taking the hockey glory for the United States is huge for them. It's huge for the sport because we don't think of women's hockey as a big sport in the U.S. though. Women's hockey though?
Women's hockey has been talked about consecutively by U.S. journalists, everybody, sports professionals since 1998 when they won the past 20 years.
But it's always overshadowed by men's hockey.
Not typically. U.S. men's hockey, haven't had the best Olympic record, especially this year. And like you said, yes, it was really awesome that they came back and they were able to be better than the men, and that's so important because women's hockey, especially in America, does need that sort of publicity. But I do not think that just simply because of the fact that they were better than men, that means more for the sport in America.
I will agree. I think curling also needed the publicity just as much as women's hockey did. I just think, again, the underdog story, when we're talking Miracle on Ice, you think hockey because it was the men's hockey team back then and it's the women's hockey team now with that miracle.
But I think this is going to really touch back to the United States. And like you said, women's hockey was overshadowed by men's hockey. But now when you look at it from a youth standpoint, if you're a young woman in this country,
exactly,
you're going to be motivated. I'm going to go play women's hockey.
What about those young men curlers?
Well, guys, really exciting Olympics. Both really great stories to follow, honestly. And I see participation in both sports increasing a huge amount. I personally would love to curl sometimes. Looks really fun. That's all the time we have from this block and all we have from the 2018 Winter Olympics. What a memorable and historic 3 weeks they were, Mason will be joining me at the desk next to hand out the Mr. Undeserving Award to some very deserving winners.
From Earl Campbell to Peyton Manning, it only takes one first-round draft pick to turn an NFL team from hopeless to hopeful. But not all first-round picks have been worth it, though, as some picks have left fans and analysts confused onto why they were valued so high in the first place. So, Thomas, which NFL player do you think earns the title of Mr. Undeserving?
Man, it's kind of funny because it looked like he deserved it going into the draft, but I got to go with Jamarcus Russell. Exactly. Such a big talent at LSU when he played quarterback there. Throwing over 6,000 yards and 50 touchdowns in his 3 years there. Won that All-State Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame, really sealing his place.
What a disaster in the NFL, though.
Oh my goodness. The Raiders try to draft him, He holds out, demands $68 million in his first contract. They give it to him. And then he gives them.
And then he doesn't want to play football.
Exactly. Didn't want to play. Got completely out of shape. Went to a 7-18 record in 3 seasons.
See, I have to go with the other, basically universally regarded worst draft pick in history, Ryan Leaf. 1998. It came down to one game in the '97 season to decide whether the Colts or the Chargers got the #1 pick. The Colts got it. They decided, you know what? We're going to go with the more mature man, Peyton Manning.
Great pick.
Two Super Bowls and a first ballot Hall of Fame career, potentially the greatest of all time at the QB position, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Ryan Leaf, another player who just didn't want to play football, had disciplinary issues, injuries, just not driven, ends up out of the league by 2002.
And it was sad to see just all the potential that these guys had going in. We were so excited, such high-level quarterbacks, but didn't do anything.
Fails, and certainly deserving of Mr. Undeserving.
Ooh, very nice.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of One-on-One Sports.
Special thanks to all of our crew, talent, and to you, the viewer, for tuning in.
If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, all at One-on-One Sports. And until next time,
whose side are you on?